Dolly Singh. I'm the CEO and founder of Thesis Couture. Thesis is the world's first performance-focused fashion footwear brand. So high heels are a $40 billion a year annual industry. $12 billion of that is spent on high heels over the $300 price point. So it's very notoriously known as a coveted fashion product, but it's also known to be pretty notoriously painful as well as damaging to the same consumers that love them so much. So when you look at the market today, it's bifurcated into two segments where you have sexy shoes that are very uncomfortable to wear and then shoes that are more comfortable to wear but definitely wouldn't qualify as sexy. There's never really been anybody in that upper right quadrant doing both things effectively. A big part of the reason for that is for about 100 years, high heels have been essentially the exact same. There's never been an effective R&D or innovation entity within that entire sector. So Thesis was founded to be that R&D entity. My background is I was the director of talent acquisition at SpaceX. I worked directly for Elon Musk for 6 years. I grew SpaceX from 200 to just under 4,000. After that, I went on and was in the same capacity at Oculus VR. I joined them after their $2 million Kickstarter and stayed until the $2 billion acquisition by Facebook. And then I took that same approach to Thesis, which is building a really diverse, super impressive team to attack the problem from a different perspective. So what we've done is essentially reimagine that internal architecture of how high heels should be made. So for over 100 years, high heels have been made around a flat metal plate, looks sort of like this. So from an engineering standpoint, it's a pretty uninspired solution. So what we did was reimagine that architecture. Just like the human body has bones, muscles, and skin, what you see there is essentially the bones of our structure. It's intended to more effectively redistribute load, minimize the amount of friction and fatigue on the body, as well as reduce the amount of impact shock. The best thing about it is we created all of these internal components with the ability and the geometry to fit inside the lines and looks of a high fashion aesthetic that women want most. We're going to be rolling out our first 1,500, so we're in late stages of R&D. We're going to offer our first 1,500 pair on a limited run reservation only basis at the end of this year. Next year we'll offer a total of 10,000 pair across 2 seasons, also on a limited reservation basis. And then in year 3 we're going to begin to explore opportunities for licensing and retail partnerships. So we'll essentially be running an inventory-free model for the first 2 years. Those first 1,500 pair will be numbered and signed and rolled out in a marketing release borrowed essentially from the Tesla Model S. We are currently raising $1 million on a convertible note and are halfway subscribed. The last one I'll click. Well, that was my last slide, so thank you. I'm happy to take any questions. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well,
what do you guys think?
Dolly, I'm happy we finally get to meet in person.
Thank you.
So I think your idea is genius. I love the vision. And it's odd to ask this, but this sounds like the kind of mission that should go to a Kickstarter, not to discount you as a founder, but the fact that you're doing something inspiring for women. I just feel like you could get a lot of like non-dilutive capital from a world of people that might invest in you now and then go jack us up on valuations when you prove this.
We're doing a very similar thing. We're just doing it on our website. So we're going to be doing everything on a reservation basis. We're essentially pre-bottling that interest via our sort of guerrilla marketing campaigns and the outreach that we're doing. Then we're going to open the list and look to subscribe that 1,500 pair and that all in that first 24 hours. So the reason we're doing that versus doing a formal Kickstarter campaign is Kickstarter, one, there's less women on the platform than there are tech-savvy men. And so I'm doing all the work to drive the traffic anyways, so I'd rather drive all of that traffic to my brand directly than to drive it to Kickstarter that then drives it to me. So I got to do all the generation work anyways, so I just want to drive those people directly to my site and to my brand. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk about brand building in a notion where I'm a shoe person. So
yes.
Where
they're great.
Thank you. So do yours.
Thank you.
Where the aesthetic and brand of shoes means so much more, and even what you're talking about is the antithesis of why women buy shoes in the first place. So talk to me how you're going to mesh that brand and messaging.
Yeah, I think for me, I think that beauty should not be pain. So I think we've sort of bought into that philosophy that fashion should hurt, and it's because most of the creators are not the consumers. So they don't ever have to wear them. So male designers, which it is a male-dominated industry very much like tech, they design from the perspective of what do I want to see a woman wearing, which is great, but in your mind and in your fantasies, I'm probably not walking around working, right? And my real life is actually walking around working. And so there are not a lot of other products where they're designed, where the field application or the use case is entirely ignored in the design process. It's like, it doesn't make sense, right? So for me, I actually want women to think about it from the other perspective and expect both, to say that I can have something that looks great, but doesn't have to feel like a medieval torture device.
So how do you get women to do that? How do you get women to open up their eyes to a pair of high heels that actually does feel good? Because we're so used to. I want that,
so I think it just really, yeah, maybe that's a consumer to consumer issue. Like, I love Dior heels like every other girl, but if I had shoes that looked like that, but I could still dance in them, I would definitely choose those. Even though I'm very brand conscious and brand centric, for me as now a 36-year-old woman, I can't keep doing that to my body, and I'm not going to keep doing that to my body. So the goal is to not have to sacrifice.
Why wouldn't you just license the tech to Ferragamo?
Yeah, so starting year 3, we'll want to do that, but when you redo, and like their process has been the same for a very long time, so the factories do not know how to produce the way that we want them to produce. Right now it takes like 3 to 4 hours to produce a pair of high-end high heels. We want to cut down that production time to like 45 minutes. So in order to make sure that our production process and everything that we're doing is sound and we can generate super high quality product, we want to have a very constrained and controlled release that also allows us to build into the brand via limited releases, working with VIPs and influencers, getting them to love the product first so that way they can help evangelize for us. And so doing a controlled release is part of the brand piece, and then also part of getting that production process right. So when we license out the technology, we're doing a good job helping those other partners be able to effectively embed our components into their existing ecosystems.
So talk about price, because I think I saw on your deck that you want to charge $1,500 a pair.
No, so the first release will be at $925. We'll be at between $350 to $950 for our collection. So there'll be 2016 is when we'll do our first 3 style collection. It'll be a day look at about $350, an evening look at about $550, and then a red carpet look that we'll only do like 500 pair of, offered at like $925.
What's the value to your consumer feel versus fashion? How much of a markup are you going to be able to demand because your shoes feel good versus look good?
We're staying from a pricing standpoint within what's known as sort of the affordable luxury category, which is that $300 to $1,000 range. So we're not pricing it any higher than what would already be a premium product and a premium price point. We're just offering a slightly different value. Value is usually brand heritage driven. So you buy Dior heels because they're Dior heels.
Let me ask you this. How much more or less does your manufacturing process cost than the current
Our price points in terms of production will be essentially the same. So we'll be able to produce at the same cost as the market produces shoes today.
Thank you very much, Dolly.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Here's bread and butter.
I'm going to share these.
Just for you.